All right, well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. We get together most weekday mornings at 8 o'clock Central to talk about strategies, tips, share techniques, and success stories. And today, again, is Friday, May 16th, 2025. When we start out our training, and again, here's today's date, agenda's up here. What we like to start with is just making sure that everyone that is working with us as a distribution partner is open for business. So what that means is you, at no cost, there's no contract to sign, no expense to you, you can become what we'll call a distribution partner. It can be labeled different things, all means the same: grant coordinator, reseller, so forth. So on 509pacific.org, it gives you the opportunity to fill out a inquiry form, and then we'll send you an email, which is an implementation packet. And that was actually our training yesterday. So if you missed yesterday's training or any other trainings, you can go back to our YouTube channel. We went through and actually walked you through the implementation email that you would receive after coming aboard. We also mentioned yesterday that if you came aboard a while back, you can go ahead and fill this form out again. We'll send you an updated implementation form that has all the new resources. So again, to get those that training, go to the YouTube page, Business Paralegal, and then go to 509 Pacific. If you're not yet a distribution partner, this is where you would go. Not really our focus today. Just wanted to make sure that everyone is open for business. Is that we have 520 was 19 520 of you on this morning. Is everybody open for business? Does anyone need help with kind of the basics of getting open? Because we send you the editable client agreement, you take our information off, put yours on, change pricing if you want. Again, we talked about all that on yesterday's training, which you can access. Should be real simple. Should be open for business. Okay, so I think we're all good there. We're going to have an interesting discussion today on bank accounts. Now, this is relevant regardless if you're thinking it through the eyes of a client or even you as a distribution partner. And we recently had a little hiccup that we learned from. So you'll see the notice, we have new wiring instructions. So if you have our older wiring instructions, older meaning as of yesterday, that is no longer good. And I'm going to tell you why. But also we're going to go into a conversation which ties to row 16 here on the implementation checklist. So this implementation checklist is what each client now receives when they buy a fundable shelf corp from you. Because remember, you're involved with educating and enrolling. We take care of the implementation. So we send them their shelf corp documents and this checklist. And we also send them a recording of the checklist where we walk them through it. But today we're going to focus on just one row: bank accounts. Seems kind of harmless, seems kind of simple, but it's really not. So whether it be me, you, or any client, we need to be conscious of the bank account we open. So it's not so much that there's some right bank to go to. So I'm not differentiating that bank A is better than bank B or better than bank C. But what we do need to be conscious of is that many banks have different types of business bank accounts. And it is crucial that rather it be us, which we made that mistake, so we're resetting, but rather it be us or you or a client, we need to make sure that they open the right type of bank account. Now you might say, well, what does that mean? Isn't there commercial and they're personal? Of course they want business or commercial. They don't want a personal account for their business. That's kind of obvious. But it goes deeper than that. If you remember, and this is usually the case, so maybe you're the exception, but usually what happens is when you open a business bank account, they ask for some basic information about your business, the EIN, and when was it formed, and they want to confirm that it's in good standing, and we can always support that for our Shelf Corp clients. So that's never a problem. So those basics are easy, very consistent, factual, accurate, no worries. But where does the variability come in? Usually they're going to ask you some questions like, well, What's your largest deposit going to be? How much deposits do you expect per month? How much do you expect to average as your daily balance? Are you going to do wires? Will you have international wires or only domestic wires? How many wires will you have? Those are some basic questions that a bank will typically ask the account holder when they open. Now, you might say, well, Tom, if we're providing these people a fundable shelf core, which includes these first four items and, of course, help with everything else, why don't we just give them a bank account? Why don't we do a better job and just give them more of what they need? Well, because this kind of ties into it. First of all, they need to be the authorized signer on the bank account, not us, of course, because it's their money. We shouldn't have access to it, and we don't. So we don't get the bank account for the client. They get their bank account. We provide them the documentation that they need to open it, as well as their driver's license. But what I'm telling you and getting to is that how you answer those questions is going to often determine how they set up your account. And if you start to have activity that's outside of what you told them, it could either raise a flag, it could put a fraud alert on your bank account, or they could just write out close it. So what happened with us, going back to the topic, is they ask us, we'll go to this one, are we going to receive wires? And we said, sure, yeah, wires is normal with business. It's our normal way of receiving payment. They said, fine. And they said, well, how many wires a month do you plan on getting? And we said, I don't know, 1,000. So that sounded fine. Well, guess what happened? On May 15th, halfway through the month, we hit 1,000. And so they stopped processing more wires. So I don't think you'll find many banks that will cap how much money you can bring in. However, if you are using fintech apps, you may very well find that banks or those fintech apps will cap how much money that you can put into your bank account. So a lot of them will cap out at 100 or 250,000 per month. So on the fintech apps, you got to be careful about those. Most normal banks won't cap how much you can deposit, but they may have restrictions and regulations on the quantity and the matching of size. So we made a mistake. We told them 1,000 wires a month. We blew through that in half the month. So they said, oh, well, no more wires. Horrible, right? So now we've got to get everyone new wiring information. The point that I'm wanting to make to you is as a grant coordinator reseller, you need to do projections of what type of activity you expect to have, and then be able to make sure you communicate that actively with your bank, or it could cause interruption. And then secondly, for clients, now we put together a pro forma projection, so we know what we think the clients are going to do and bring in. However, it may vary, and so that's why we need them answering those questions. So it's just telling the truth. It's nothing about what's the right answer, but it needs to match the truth. So that's the lesson for today, is when you open a bank account, you need to make sure that it's set up properly, because in many cases there's different types of business bank accounts. And then also we'll be getting you our new wiring instructions, because fortunately, we're maxed for the month with our primary bank, but we'll have that resolved today. So with that being said, we're going to keep our training short today, as we tend to on Fridays. Let's get out there and let's go help people and make money. We'll see you back Monday morning. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.